What's going on, everybody? Today is Monday, September 30th, last day of September. Coming to you a little bit late. I was in Florida, right, for that good old hurricane. So,
Hmm.
little behind schedule here, but survived. I figured my parents would be like, "Oh, you got to come home." Like, why aren't you coming home? Which my dad eventually
Hmm.
did do. But his initial thing was, he said, he was like, "Oh, I've always kind of wanted to be in a hurricane, and then just if it's getting bad, you just leave." And I was like, "Okay, that seems like the opposite of your
It's that
personality."
easy.
But
You tell that to the millions of people affected by the hurricane.
yeah, yeah, we were good where we were. So we were like 7 miles inland in Tampa, so that was good. Um, but then so we had an Airbnb. So we were gonna stay at my buddy's house in Tampa for a couple days. Then we were gonna go to the Airbnb on the beach in Indian Rocks, if you know the area, and um, and so we were supposed to go there on Wednesday. Um, One of my friends said the hurricane was supposed to start on Wednesday. I was like, I think it's Thursday, but he was like, no, it's Wednesday. So we just didn't go over there Wednesday. And it just rained and it was like overall pretty fine. But then we're like, okay, hurricane's starting like Thursday afternoon, right? So me and one of my buddies went over there at like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And we were like, all right, let's walk down, like over to the beach. We were like right on the bay. Um, so there was
Mm.
like bay, road, our house, then two like small blocks, and then the beach. So it's a pretty thin strip of land there. So we're like, all right, let's go walk over to the beach, see what it's like. And there was like one of those like wood panel like walkways up to the beach, and the
Hmm.
water was hitting the wood panels at the end. It was all the
A
way up the
boardwalk, if you
beach.
will.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess that is what it is. But, so yeah, there's like dunes and shit that are a couple feet high, but they are kind of like undulating. So there's definitely places for like water was gonna start getting in pretty soon. And while we were
Right.
walking over there, there was like a local walking his dog, and he had a one story. Our house was three, um, and so he was like, we were asking him like, yeah, like what do you think about this? And he said that if it floods from the beach or if it floods from the bay, if it floods from just one, then you're good because it'll just drain out the other side. But if it
Hmm.
starts flooding from both sides, then you have like 20 minutes to leave. And so we're like, all right, well, this side looks like it's gonna flood, so let's go look at the other side. And it was maybe 6 inches from
Right.
getting onto the road already. So we
He's just
turned.
walking his dog. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he had like sandbags in front of his house, and he was like, "Yeah, if I see that, I'm
Mm.
leaving." And then I was like, "Okay." So, yeah, so we saw that. We just got out of there. It was like we were gonna do the same stuff at the house as my buddy's place. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was pretty good. And then it was a mandatory evacuation zone. And when we were
Right.
Ubering back to the airport on Sunday, our Uber driver told us that she was like helping some friends out the last couple days who like got their like cars and stuff swept away in that
Hmm.
area, but it's because they didn't leave. It's like you could have just drove your car away.
Yeah, my dad lives down there. He said um, they were fine. I know a lot of people. We have another through where I work. We have a job that's down there as well. They were all fine. It sounded like that they just lost power for like a little bit, and then they were good. My one buddy was saying that um, the water like came up to within like a couple feet of his house, and he like lived on like a Gulf inlet,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, he was that, and then it just started receding. It was like just during the storm surge. So
Yeah.
luckily, most pretty much everyone I know is okay. North Carolina got hit pretty bad in Eastern Tennessee. I'm in Middle Tennessee, so we just got some like it was just it rained. It was so weird. I was like prepping for it to storm really hard, and we just got like moderate rain, but it was like that rain that you're like, okay, this is gonna last like half an hour, and then
Mm-hmm.
it'll be done. It rained like that for like 2.5 days straight, nonstop.
Yeah,
But
because
like there was like no wind, and it wasn't like big drops. It was just like a consistent rain. I was like, okay.
yeah, we were looking at the radar before, like the days leading up, because we were trying to track what the direction it looked like it was going, and it kind of looked like it was gonna hit like
Mm-hmm.
the bend, like Tallahassee area, and
Mm-hmm.
before the hurricane even like the eye of it like really formed in the Gulf, there was already just like dumping water in like Georgia and like North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, like you were saying, and then the hurricane came through and like it looks like it's bad there for sure. So yeah, definitely
It
got
like
lucky.
fucked up Asheville
I saw
in
that
North
they're like
Carolina. Yeah. So
there's like a major highway that like the bridge got taken out or something. And they're getting cut off and yeah, not good.
yeah, I think like there was like a dam that broke over there, and I-40, which is the main highway that runs
Mm,
east west through Tennessee and North Carolina. That's like I-40 east or like into the Appalachians into the mountain range.
mm,
Like it was like taking out like part of the highway like fell into the river through there. So
that's
pretty
crazy.
crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, something a little more enjoyable to talk about. Survivor. Um, we
Hell
had
yeah.
we had week two, the final 15 of Survivor. I will say, I had maybe a little bit of a hot take. Was that I don't know that we need like a 2 hour premiere every year. I felt like last year maybe it was just because the same tribe kept losing, and it was like we're just watching a movie about the purple tribe every week, and
Hmm.
so maybe it was because of that. But I do feel like at this stage through two episodes, the red tribe hasn't gone to tribal council, but we've gotten a lot of dynamics. We've got one of each of the other two going each episode. I feel like we have pretty fleshed out tribal dynamics after only two episodes, and I do enjoy that aspect of it at least.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you that the premiere shouldn't be 2 hours. I think they're trying to get better at showcasing everyone, I think, in the 2 hour premieres. And it does I feel like the hour and a half does is worthwhile as opposed to just an hour just because of all that extra character building they can do. Um so I like it from that aspect. And I would agree with you. I think there's still yet to be some stuff revealed about the Red Tribe, but everybody else, I'm pretty confident in what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say they're doing a good job of getting everybody, like you said, except for like half the red tribe. It's pretty. They don't give a fuck about that.
Well, if the dynamic is that no one likes Rome, then they're doing a good job at showing that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is an interesting one to get into. But let's start with the blue tribe, the one that goes to tribal council. We've got Sue, Caroline, Tiana, Gabe, Kyle, and for the time being, TK. Um, and so we kind of got pre challenge here. TK, so the guys kind of have a thing from last week. We also saw Gabe kind of he's trying to do the Sue thing. Caroline is trying to do the Sue thing. Tiana was kind of nowhere to be found. So coming into the week, it seems like the guys could be a three. Gabe maybe has his own ideas. Um, TK, he wants to form this three-person alliance himself, Tiana, and Kyle. He's kind of ID'd Kyle as like his guy. And he's he did see Gabe doing the idol, the box key business. So he's a little sus on Gabe. Um, and so from from Gabe's perspective, he is I don't know if he views himself as like the fourth, I guess I don't even know if he knows about Tiana going in there, but he's not as into the guys. The guys aren't as into him, and I think that this is an interesting breakup pre-challenge. Like if they won the challenge, or maybe if it was very close and TK doesn't have the explosion, I am very interested to see the direction that this takes because. at this stage is relatively amorphous, I feel like. But yeah, so Gabe is so he already has the deal with Sue. Caroline already has the deal with Sue. So Gabe, he's gonna try to lobby Caroline to join him in Sue. I guess he doesn't know about Caroline Sue. Um, she's pretty skeptical of him. She essentially says no to being his ally. He's like, hey, want to work together, and she's.
I was yeah, like I don't understand why she is so anti-Gabe. Was there something in the premiere that I missed about her being anti-Gabe? Because we get like a confessional of her being like, I don't know if I could ever see myself working with Gabe. I'm like, why not? He's an alliance on like this in the second boot of the season. Like, I don't understand why she's like ostracizing potential allies here.
Yeah, it
She
sounded
ends up
like
working with him, but like it was a weird confessional.
right. It sounded like a tribal council that everybody pretty much knows about the Gabe Idol stuff. So maybe that's like we saw TK finding him, but maybe there is a little bit more than meets the eye there. But yeah, like you said, it feels natural because they're both already aligned with Sue, but she is anti. And what saves or what sways her to his side is Gabe shows her the idol. She's still like, I guess I'll be his ally, but that's like a major show of trust. I feel like.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, so we essentially get this breakdown of there's a guy's thing and a girl. It seems like the girl's thing is almost like out of necessity, where Tyan is like, I guess like the guys are all together, so like I don't want to be the fourth with the guys. So like it's kind of guys versus girls. Tiana is kind of floating, and Gabe is kind of floating. And TK does appear like TK was high in the rankings last week. He does appear to have a decent level of control here. Like I do get a little bit of a steamrolly vibe from him, even before the challenge stuff. But and
we had brought that up last week even too, of him saying that of us saying that we were surprised that no one pushed back more on his aggressiveness last week. And we were like, maybe that's just how this tribe kind of rolls. And evidently it did not roll that way. They just didn't vote anyone out week one.
Yes. Yeah, they definitely do not roll that way. But yeah, it seemed like he had a lot of control. And then obviously the challenge happens. He's clearly getting frustrated during the challenge because it is a cooperative kind of deal where they're trying to guide the ball down the snake as a threesome, which I thought was a kind of interesting twist on a classic there. Nothing really wrong with it. I don't mind it. And the teamwork aspect he was not down with. I can't believe he didn't make himself stand in the middle there.
Oh yeah. Well, he's someone who like needs to be in control, but then I feel like as soon as something doesn't go his way, it's not his fault.
Right. Yeah, so that would have been... so yeah, it was just the guy in the middle's fault. I forget who was standing in the middle, but he's like... Every time it falls, he's just like, are you kidding me? And it's like, well, it looked like it just
couldn't possibly have been his fault that it fell.
Right. So yeah, after the challenge, I didn't even think Tiana was really smiling that much, but Jeff's like, hey, you a lot of smiles over there. How's it going? And he like directs it at Tiana. And she's like, yeah, this smile's fake. I'm actually pretty upset. And then he's like, TK, how do you feel? And he's like, the smiles are bullshit. Nobody should be fucking smiling. Like, it never goes well to be like the guy who is taking gym class too seriously. Like, it is crazy that in a game for $1 million, like the challenges give you free, like safety and immunity. It's in the name, immunity challenge. And
nice.
But like it is funny that if people take the challenges a little too seriously, everyone is like, whoa. But it's like he is right that it's like your key to moving on. Like if you just win challenges, you just all stay in.
Yeah. This is such a new Survivor boot.
Yeah, it is.
Like just in general.
This would be insane
like
in the single digits.
This would have never Yeah, this would have been insane in the 20s or even like the early 30s to be completely honest. Like it's so like they just get in their own head about the game, and you're right, like if you win the challenges you don't vote anyone out. Like that is the best way to keep the tribe strong, is to win the challenges, right? You don't have to worry about who's blindsiding who and who, like where the alliances are and taking shots and making your resume big if you just never go to tribal. You don't have to worry about any of that. So like, and also like I've said this a couple times, I feel like over the course of us of this podcast, where this is such like a football guy that like that's such a football guy take to have,
Yep.
like no one should be fucking smiling right now. We're going back to that island and we're running laps. Everybody's putting the pads back on and we're running laps. And like that's like essentially what he was saying. Like I've had coaches like over the course of my athletic career that is long since over. Um, just like if someone's smiling after someone fucked up, everybody's running. Like it
Yeah.
is the end. It is the biggest deal in the world. If someone's laughing when you shouldn't be laughing, if anybody's happy after a loss, like it's such an athlete thing to think that way. And I don't like. I guess the other people on the tribe like him saying that, like I would not have been offended by but if I was on TK's tribe about him saying that, just because like I grew up around that. But like if you didn't grow up in sports or in sports that or people who act like that, like that's very like jarring probably to
Yeah.
have someone talk like that.
Yeah, I would have been fine just like standing there, like him like going off like that. It wouldn't have bothered me. It didn't bother me really, but as he was saying it, I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna land very well with like the Sue Smees of the world, you know.
Yeah, yeah, you got to know your audience, right? Because like that can rally people too. Like a speech like that, if you're around the right group of people, like that can rally your tribe. But like if you're around the wrong group of people, like they took it such as like he's coming at us for like wanting to have a good time on Survivor. When like that, I'm on TK's side here, but in the sense that like he should have known better not to do this because he should have read the room better. But like just in a vacuum, I'm on his side with his point.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and like I mean, but you are absolutely right that like you know a I don't know how old Sue is, but an older woman and like the Countess does not look like she's like dunking basketballs anytime soon. So yeah, obviously
Right.
they were not super down with this. I did have you were saying like if one person fucked up, everybody ran. That reminded me of a great
Mm-hmm.
story from when I think I was a sophomore. And for baseball, we had this one kid who was like he was on the JV team as a freshman. And he was like I don't know, he was like a pretty big douchebag. And nobody really liked him, and he kind of like went out of his way to it was one of those that he was like slightly below average, but he acted like he was like definitely the best player, like in our class.
Mm-hmm.
And he would tell us about all these like D1, like I forget who was like the number one college team in the country, but he was like, yeah, I'm going to camp there like this summer or whatever. And um,
It's like the camp you paid $300 to go to, like
right,
not invited to, like
yeah. So he was so yeah, he
anybody
was
can
just
go.
like a huge dickhead to like players didn't like him, the coaches did not like him at all, and he actually got cut. And he had a great exit where so we were all sitting in the hall, and they'd call us in one at a time into the locker room to do like a coaches on one, like you're on varsity or JV. Here's what we think is like on this year,
Right.
right? So uh so we've been sitting out there forever because we're sophomores, so we're going third. And so he comes out, he has like a, I don't even know what it was in his hand because like it wouldn't have been his keys because he's got to leave, but he had something in his hand, and um he had a fluorescent green long sleeved like Hollister shirt on, and he had
Nice.
a fluorescent blue like puffy vest on. And he comes out wearing that. Whatever was in his hand, he threw it against the locker, and he said, "See y'all fuckers next year." and that was immortalized in a video that someone was recording as he came out. Somebody had the wherewithal to know he was getting cut and to record it, and it started going around, and everybody except for the people who recorded the video had to run, and the suicides that we had to run were from, we started at where the coaches were standing, and we had to run to where those kids were standing, not running, and then run back. And the obscenities that were said at those two kids when we would turn around and run back. It was like the scariest fucking seniors were like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. To like these just like little ass. One was a freshman, actually. The one that like everyone was really mad at. Yeah. Good times. Good times.
That was the start of that kid's villain arc. That kid who got cut.
Yeah. He was already kind of a villain, but yeah, he's I don't know if he ever tried out again. I don't think he did.
He
Definitely
faded into obscurity.
I guess, man. I don't know.
He's just in the friend group lore now.
Yeah, he's such a supreme athlete that I'm actually so shocked that I didn't see him pop up at like Tennessee or Coastal or some shit like that. But
and that kid's name was Paul Skeens.
Yeah. That would be hilarious, yeah. But yeah, so jump back into Survivor here. So yeah, TK, people are not happy with him. Sue really hates TK because he's talking during her nap. She calls him a bastard, which I thought was pretty funny.
So TK walks down where they're trying to nap, right? And
I think
just
they
starts
said
throwing
like,
it up.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, we all, the four of us, I think it was Tiana, Sue, and then TK and Kyle, and they were like, we all had this idea that we were all tired, we're going to take a nap on the beach, and then he just talked the entire time. And then
like, you can go anywhere and talk, yeah.
Right. Then they came back, and he said something like, damn, I wish I could be sleeping all day, or something like that.
Which
yeah,
I heard that too, and I like he was joking there, right? Like he was fucking with them.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he said that seriously. Yeah, but I don't think they knew he was joking either. Like he was just all time like bad read on his tribe. Besides Kyle, him and Kyle are boys, but like he like can't get a read on anybody else with the smiling and the jokes and like it's not the same sense of humor.
Yeah, and Kyle caught a crazy ricochet there because he got called a bastard too. He got lumped it. She said those bastards wouldn't stop talking. I was like, whoa, we just jumped up from we just jumped up from talking during the nap to bastards. That was quite the quick progression. But yeah, it kind of seemed like Gabe was definitely with the Countess and Sue, and Tiana was not happy with TK at all, and so it seemed like it was going to be 3-3 at the best for TK, but probably a 4-2, and it is a 4-2. And he goes home, and like you said, this is a very new school boot. He is probably the most physically imposing person on the entire season. But yeah, he's gone. Gabe kind of pointlessly plays his idol. I don't know if that's just because everyone knows he has it, which if that's why, it's a move that I don't hate. Because it is only for
three tribals.
He had it for 3, so it's like probably isn't a great move.
I don't hate it either. Like
yeah,
Gabe, we agree, not the best player, right?
Correct. I would agree.
So if you know you're not great, I don't know if he knows he's not great or if
I don't think that he knows he's not
if
great.
You don't have, well, you never know. I don't know. So like okay, let me rephrase. If he's thinking, I don't have like the best read on what's gonna happen at this tribal, which he should have a good read on what's gonna happen at this tribal, but he's a step away from realizing he's not great at Survivor. Him playing the idol, I guess, is the next best thing to do there because you don't have it for that many tribals. This is the first time you guys are going, so if you're completely misreading the situation that you're in, worst case, you don't go home and you can reevaluate for the next time you go. Is so I like the play, to be honest.
Yeah, I am a big proponent of if you're lost at tribal and you have an idol, just play it. That said, I don't think he should have been lost because he's like the middle guy that like you play the idol because you're like, I feel like something's happening that I am not tracking, and you're scared of what it might be, so you play the idol. He's the thing. He's what TK can't see coming, but he plays it anyway. At least TK thought it was gangster.
He's like a step away from realizing he's not good.
He is. He's
like,
so
I don't know
close.
what's going on here, even though he's so close to realizing.
Yeah, it's
the
like
best part of this tribal was. Good, you first.
No, go. I was gonna have a dumb analogy.
The best part of this tribal is is Kyle's reaction when TK leaves, and he just goes, "No."
He is like.
It was so good.
He is crazy trusting, where he was like, I had no idea something like this could happen. So I did want to talk about
TK. We all love TK.
I've never heard him talk during a nap. This is a good guy here, and you sold him down the river. I do think Kyle. This group is very wide open still. I think the fact that Caroline was so hesitant to join Gabe, I would not call that a solid 3 with them and Sue. I do think Sue is safe because, I think either one of them would want Sue on their side. Tiana seems level-headed enough, and she was in the numbers. Kyle, like I said, I think he's too trusting. He's a really nice guy that people seem to like as a person. And I think with the fact that it's not rigidly 4-1, I think there is, get off the mat potential for him here.
If I'm a betting man, I don't think I bet that he goes next from this tribe. I think it's Gabe. I think Gabe is much more likely to go than Kyle.
And he's fresh out of an idol, so.
True, exactly. He's nothing.
I think Kyle could bring Tiana back. And then you could get into a Gabe versus Caroline scenario, or a Gabe going for Kyle because he's like, hey, this is the guy who didn't vote with us, and then Caroline working her way to slip the knife on Gabe. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I'm thinking it could be a Gabe thinking it's 4-1 on Kyle and it's a 4-1 on Gabe.
Oh, the pain. All right, let's talk a little Yellow Tribe. This was very, very interesting. I feel like I think the most interesting thing, based on our rankings, is how differently we're viewing this tribe right now. So it starts out with Andy. He's very happy that he's fitting in. He's saying, now that I got through a tribal council, I know I had a blow up, but I'm seeing things through a different lens. I'm happy to be here, and you know what? I'm calmed down, and it's going to be good. And everyone's cheering when he opens the coconut. I thought that was very clearly pandering / sarcastic, but he's eating it up. And
that's what I was gonna say. He's got to know that. Well, they had definitely set that up and be like, "All right, go open a coconut. And we're all gonna cheer for you." That wasn't I don't think they were hiding the fact that he was in on that. Is essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah. But yeah, it turns out they're just keeping him happy until he can be the next boot. And so the plan is kind of let's babysit Andy. And so the 3 girls are going to go off, and Sam is the first one on Andy babysitting duty. And what's interesting is Sam and Andy actually kind of connect. And Sam, he's kind of joking about the situation at first, but then he's like, I don't know, I kind of like the guy, and kind of trying to level with what he was going through. And right as Andy's building up all his goodwill, Sam's like, I'm going to go take a piss real quick. Be back in 5. And as soon as he gets up, Andy's like, I was left alone, and I started spiraling. And it was very clearly he was by himself for 5 minutes, and he was like, I'm going to go look for the advantage. So
Right.
Andy's like, or Sam comes back. He's like, oh my God, I've lost my Andy. And so he goes looking for him.
Right. It's one
And,
job.
but Andy finds the beware advantage. And this is a thing that we've talked about before. I've theorized doing this. And Andy finds the beware advantage and he says, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to put it back and maybe I'll come take it later. And so in doing that, he still has his vote. Now, I'm thinking of that for someone like on the Blue Tribe, right, where it's pretty up in the air still. Andy, I think, is the most obvious you need an advantage guy of all time. So he should have just taken it, but he leaves it.
Exactly. And his vote means nothing at this point. Like
Right.
there's no he
Big
needs an
difference
advantage
between
and
4 to
his
1
vote
and
doesn't
4
mean
to
anything.
0. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah, so he puts it back, and then Sam is like, yeah, he definitely went looking for it. So Sam and Annika are going to go looking for it, and Sam finds it right in front of her. And they both kind of react to the situation similarly of like, well, Annika's glad she has it. Sam's not glad that she knows. But they both kind of react similarly of like, yeah, we probably wouldn't have told each other about this. And so now the fact that Sam has one, Annika, she says he's already a big enough threat. So that kind of put me on like, okay, Annika might be looking at him a little bit here. And she now knows Sam's secret. So now Sam is like, ooh, like I really got to be careful with how I handle things with Annika. And so there is definitely cracks forming here where Sam says Sierra's my number one, which is new information. He tells Sierra about it. Annika is going to tell Rachel that she knows about it as well. So it's kind of like 2-2 almost within the 4, disregarding Andy. And so now Sam says, all right, well, I think Annika might tell Rachel. So I'm going to tell Rachel on my own, unprompted, which I do think is probably a good decision because he's actually, Marta's just approaching. So slowly getting louder.
He has approached. He has approached. He's just looking at me now. But yeah, I think this is a great. I said this in the moment when I was watching it, but this is a great read by Sam. I think overall, Marta's now walking away.
She's had enough of this.
It's obviously a good read to tell your number one in Sierra. Annika, it's obviously she knows you guys found together, and that's a good read to know that Annika's number one is Rachel and that she's gonna tell her, so that you don't lose any points with Rachel. Like I think it's just like a good read overall of tribe dynamics by Sam to understand what's happening and to execute on that information well.
Yeah, and I really appreciated this sequence because a lot of times we get something like the Blue Tribe, right, where there's a group of like 3 or 4 or whatever will form, and you're like, well, how does that person get to that person? Like, do they have a direct line, or are they really more like friend of a friend, like Gabe Caroline with Sue in the middle kind of deal? And I feel like here we saw the direct links of like, I feel like Sierra is like comfortably in the middle here. It seems like she is Sam's, back and forth. He calls her his number one. But also the other 2 girls definitely are more down with Sierra than Sam. So I think if you're taking this tribe all the way down to 2 people, I don't think Sierra would want to side with those 2. Because I think Annika and Rachel would side with each other over Sierra. And so I think she's kind of in a perfect situation, and this is like an inciting incident for her to like actually see all the cards on the table. And Sam even says to her, like, in this episode, they haven't even gone to a tribal council, like, I think I want to keep Andy, actually. And he's saying it to Sierra. It kind of only leaves Annika and Rachel. I think he very clearly would want to vote out Annika. and
Hmm.
everything, her whole game is kind of right out in front of her. And this is one of those, Carson voting out, what was it, Sarah or I think Carolyn, he was deciding between. And it's like, it's one of those
Hmm.
crazy decisions where, like, you're going to vote one of these people out pre merge, and the other one might be, like, your closest ally until the end of the game.
Right. Hmm. Yeah, I think that it's really I was picking up on the same thing that you were. That was kind of like a two and two, where it's Sam and Sierra and Annika. Is it Annika or Annika? I
I
think
keep
it's
saying
Annika.
Annika, but I think it might be Annika.
Okay, Annika and Rachel. My initial read on this tribe is that like Rachel was the odd person out here.
Mm.
I think Sam and Annika still see each other as threats. Um, and I think that Sierra may potentially talk Sam out of working with Andy here if they go again. I think that if Sam takes a few days and gets like another gets some distance between what happened with him finding the idol and what Andy was doing and all that, I think he'll be able to realize that like, okay, if I'm not physically with Andy 100% of the time, like maybe he isn't like the kind of ally I want, you know? Which is true because he just goes like insane anytime he's alone. Um, but I do sympathize with him there that like he's just trying to work with the guy, and he sees some potential there and he wants to fix him, but I don't know if he's going to be able to. So like if I had to bet, I think that Andy probably goes if this tribe goes again. I think Sierra maybe talks Sam out of voting a different way or out of working with Andy there. Um, then you're at a 2-2, and I mean again we're talking like if they go again and then if they go a third time. So like a lot of ifs here, but like I just feel that Sam sees Annika as a threat, but I think that if they're going to be deadlocked 2-2, Rachel may be a more agreeable person to go after. So I just think that the way this tribe is going to shake out, that Sam and Annika are the top two players on this tribe, and Sierra may be in the best position, and then that just leaves Rachel on the bottom. That was kind of my how I got to my rankings, how I laid them out.
Sure, because yeah, I was gonna ask you how you came to that. Because I mean, it is definitely the person we're the furthest apart on is Annika. She's right in the middle of the rankings, but she's your number two and my number 13. And my read on it is just that I agree with you that I think her and Sam are, I would maybe say, like the two greatest forces on the tribe. I
Yeah,
just feel like
it's a good way to put it.
based on this like sequence of events, I could definitely see it coming to a head at their next tribal council. Like I think they're already kind of thinking about wanting to get rid of each other.
Yeah, I could see that. I just yeah. I don't know exactly how it's gonna happen. I just think that Andy may present too much of a liability.
Yeah.
And then
And,
if that is the case, then I don't think it's as cut and dry as Sam versus Annika. I think it gets crazy because it's 2-2.
yeah. And the other thing to note that I didn't even mention yet is Sam does find the beware advantage by the end of this. And he
Mm,
finds it with Sierra. He kind of solidifies that, like, hey, like I found the other one with Annika by accident. I want to find this one with you. And
right.
I, I do think that if Sam versus Annika happens, I do think he is in the position to win because Andy really is nobody. And I feel like he's feeling like he has Sam more than anyone. If he does have one person, I think he thinks it's Sam. And Sam is he was doing a lot of great work with Sierra this week. Um, that I think I do think you're right that she could talk him out of keeping Andy and talk him into getting rid of Andy. But I think at the end of the
Mm,
day, the important thing is they're making that decision together because I think she is
right.
reciprocating his feeling of that they're number one allies. Um,
Yeah. So does he have a one tribal idol or a three tribal idol?
so he took the one, but then he
Which
was
doesn't make any sense, right?
the way he was talking about it, it kind of
Like,
sounds like he could almost re-forfeit his vote and like go for the three tribe one later. Like I thought he kind of said like I could come back
because
later.
it doesn't make any sense here for him to not make that idol more powerful because everybody knows about it. He told everyone, and he found it with Annika. Why would you not just keep doing the tasks?
Right, right. Yeah, the only person you're keeping it hidden from is Andy.
Right, and if you're like, so then you just come to a crossroads of, okay, if I want to work with him, I just tell him, and if I don't want to work with him, who cares? We're going to vote him out anyway.
Right. Yeah, so that's what I was confused by because with the Beware advantage, like I said about Andy putting it back and then coming back to it, it it does. My understanding with the Beware advantage is that once you decide something and walk away, like that's an official decision. So like if you put it back and walk away, that's you leaving it. But like
Mm-hmm.
Olivia said like to me during the episode while we were watching, she was like, "Why doesn't he just like go hide it somewhere else?" And I was like, "Well, I think that's
That's
him
you
taking it."
taking it.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
would agree. Yeah.
yeah, so I think the rules are pretty defined. So like I thought he took the one, um, but I like got up to fill up my water like as he was talking, and I like kind of missed exactly what he did, but it sounded like he was like, yeah, I'll just go back to it later if I need to. But I was like, I don't know if you can do that. But I also don't know for sure
Yeah,
that
if
that's
you're,
actually
and
what he said.
you would think too, if he's in a confessional talking about it like that, like the producer would stop him and say like, "That's you can't do that," or would they not interfere like that and have him try to do that and have it not work?
I think
I don't
he
know.
needs to explicitly ask them. And if he is talking in confessional about an assumption that he's making, I do not think that they would intervene. I do think that's probably unethical for them.
Yeah, so then he would just assume that it would have power, and then he would go to play it later, and Jeff would say, "This has no power."
Well, he would have to go. I think where it would come to a head is when he goes back to the
Oh, he
box
would have to go get
to
the
like,
second one.
yeah.
Yeah.
At which point he's like, either he is not allowed to get the next clue, or like I don't know how it would work, but they would have to tell him like at some point like that's like you're done with this. Like you've already kind of this advantage is over.
I was always under the assumption that like once once he made that decision and like walked away from the box, the production just like took the box. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they didn't leave it on the island there.
That's what I was wondering too because Gabe like so he was still doing the tasks when he tried to hide the box, but then he took it
Right.
and then there's
Which
like
I
a
think is
big
okay.
ass
Yeah.
yeah, then there's like a big ass box left. And I was actually thinking that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he obligated to go bury that now, or do they just take it? Because I think if he goes and buries it, like they probably don't want it just there because they use the same beaches, so they don't want it like. Imagine somebody just like randomly digs up a box from like 3 seasons before. It's like they don't want that, so they'd
Or
probably go dig it up themselves.
yeah, right. Or if somebody just on the same season like happens by it and like they find some advantage that was already found. Like they don't want that either.
Right.
So they
Yeah.
have to take them.
So yeah, I would be interested in that. I would love to if there's like a survivor handbook that all the players get, I would love to read like the mechanics for the advantages, like in terms of interacting with production. How do you actually get more information? I've always understood it as when you're in confessional, you can ask the producer, like, I think this, am I correct in that assumption? And if you directly ask them, then they are allowed to give you like a yes or no answer. But they're not allowed to
Mm-hmm.
really like if you are making a wrong assumption, I don't think they can I the reason I said it I think it's unethical is I think if they step in and they're like that's not how it works actually is because if they're about to play the game under that assumption, like in their
Mm-hmm.
brain this is how it's working and like you should be limited to what your brain can think of. Obviously most
Right.
are. So so if he's just like if he's operating under that assumption and it burns him, like it's his fault for not thinking of the other thing, right? I do not think anyone is obligated to tell him that the assumption is wrong.
Unless I think it's unless the rules are unclearly stated, which that would be an instance where the rules I don't think were there's some gray area in the rules where like it doesn't explicitly say one way or another, so I could then fall on either side of you let him go through with it or you stop him. Like if it's like in some instances I feel like the rules could be so unclearly stated that it falls on production to tell them because they would be making a mistake because the rules weren't laid out correctly.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I
But
think that
I think this specific instance, I think you're right that they would not step in because it's not like detriment. Like it's, I feel like if it's like super detrimental to the player, like they're misunderstanding, not even misunderstanding, just that the rules weren't laid out clearly.
yeah, I would hope that if the rules were not laid out clearly and they realize it after the fact, that they would. I do think that is allowed. That they would step in and say, like, actually, this says this, and it's definitely clear that someone would interpret it in way A, and what we actually mean is way B.
Mm-hmm.
And we should probably tell them that way B is actually how it works. But I think if
Right.
way A and way B are both, you know, fair assumptions to make about the rules as they're laid out, and the rules are laid out fairly, then yeah, I think we are on the same page with that. Um,
I think it would be really interesting if they did like a mini series on like a behind the scenes for Survivor, like from
yeah,
production's aspect of it.
yeah,
I'm
I
really
think
surprised. I mean, I guess they like to keep like the mystery of the game and how it works, like because people are always so interested in when players come back from their season, or even just like people like past players who are super active on social media. Like they're always answering questions about, okay, how does this work on the island? How does this work on the island? Like people are very interested in how that works. And I think it's part of the mystery that CBS doesn't really want to reveal that the players just do on their own volition. But I think that would get a lot of interest. I feel like in just doing like a 5 part mini series on like this is how we set up the challenge and like do like all this stuff. Like it'd be really cool.
yeah, I do think it would be. I think it would be great, like that type of series, like to do like the great moves in Survivor history, and maybe like you get
Mm-hmm.
maybe like a little 20 minutes of like actual footage from the episode that they do a little highlight reel, and they're kind of pausing like how
Mm-hmm.
they do like movie commentary and stuff, and it's like Jeff, maybe like one of the other like Van Wagenen or somebody like that, and then like the players that were actually making the moves, and I do think it would be interesting to hear them say um because one that really easily comes to mind is Game Changers, where Sarah, she has the vote steal, and she gives it to Suri for like safekeeping, as a like, hey, here's a like here's a sign of trust. I'll give you this. I don't even like
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not gonna use it. I'll give it to you. And Suri tries to get a little froggy and play it, and so like it would. So if she never tried to do that, it would be interesting to hear that actually, if she did try to play it, she would not be allowed to, and that's something they could say at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
and then the other aspect is like hearing Sarah's perspective of like because obviously she got pretty creative with it of like, yeah, if I'm gonna give it to Suri, and instead of it being a sign of trust, it's actually I'm trying to validate my distrust, and I think if I give it to
Mm-hmm.
her, maybe she'll try to play it, and she does try to play it, and that's Sarah's signal that, okay, things are not actually going how I expected. I'm gonna not only take the advantage back, but now I'm gonna use it. That was my like indicator light that, okay, something's wrong here. I'm gonna do. I just think it would be really interesting to hear the other ideas she had, and maybe have one of the producers there to say, you could have done that, you could not have done that. Because that is a like it was a fine print thing with that advantage, and we often we get the high level of how the advantage works, and we don't get the fine print, and we've wasted a lot of time, just like we're doing right
Mm-hmm.
now, talking about the different kinds of ways that advantages could could be used or could maybe not be used on the show.
Yeah, I think it would have to be, yeah, something like what you were saying, because they also don't want to give out like information that could give the players an extra advantage. Like you could never do like this is how we pick like spots to hide an idol, like because
Right.
that gives the players an insight on how they do things. But
Hmm.
like I feel like you could get a little like cheeky with how you like what information you give away from a production side without giving any information, just like in an editorialized kind of way. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think like I'm surprised they've never done anything like that from like a CBS standpoint.
Yeah. That would be very cool. All right, let's talk a little bit of Red Tribe here. I think Red Tribe has the most straightforward dynamic that we've been presented. I think they also have the most people that we don't quite know enough about to actually say that we have a good understanding of the tribe. So it's pretty much Rome is on the outside. I don't actually think that he realizes it, even though I think that it's fairly obvious.
No.
He's like, I mean, the opening of the episode is he's like, it's awesome. It's so like everybody's getting along here. It's awesome. Like if I was him, my State of the Union would be like, I'm on the bottom. If I knew that I was on the bottom, that would be my State of the Union. But he's like, nah, actually, instead of everyone against me, it's me and everyone against no one. That is our current state of affairs right now.
Yeah.
But we we got very little from this tribe this week, but what we did get was super interesting. I really can't think of like the last time something like this has happened, but he tells Teeny about the advantage, and she kind of has a decision to make here. I actually think like this is also a little bit of hindsight bias for like what does happen, but I actually think this is a terrible move by Teeny to tell Keisha, or not a terrible move, but to let it get to the point where it does, to where like her mindset that she's in, I think is really bad because, like yes, she tells Keyshawn, I think that's fine to be like, hey, close ally. This other guy told me about that he has the beware advantage. I don't think there's anything wrong there. It's the fact that she's willing to walk Keyshawn to the spot and they read it while Rome is looking for like the next step. And so he's liable to come back anytime.
Right.
And he walks right into them. And it's very obvious that she betrayed him. Like I think it's really bad on her. I would much rather see someone take like the Sam approach with Andy, where it's like, you know, yeah, this guy is out on his own. Nobody really likes him. It doesn't hurt you at all to extend an olive branch. And like you were saying with Andy, like if you really want to work with him, then yeah, you clue him in on everything, down the line so that you can work together. And if you don't want to, you just fucking vote him out. But I feel like now this is a very scandalous act that she has committed. I think if Rome wanted to start a Teeny smear campaign, he definitely has the evidence to do so. And and also because they were there, he took the single-use idol. So he is safe the next time they go to tribal council. And if the safe boot is gone, it seems like it's either going to be Genevieve who goes home or somebody that appears very safe right now that would end up going home.
Right. Yeah, like that's kind of the thing is like this is the tribe that doesn't go to tribal because it doesn't make any Rome's safe, so then who goes? Nope,
Right.
we haven't gotten an edit that shows us who goes because it doesn't make sense for anybody to go. I would be willing to guess it's probably not Kishan. He seems like the only one who's so if like we're looking at it in the fact if you're looking at it from the lens of they do go to tribal before the merge, and we also know that Rome is safe because he has to play the idol. I would say the only other person I'm confident is safe is Kishan.
Yes, I would agree.
Anybody else I think could go.
Yeah, I think I
So
actually
we don't. But the read is nobody else is gonna go. So I don't know.
Right. I actually did have I have a note that says this is the Invincible tribe. because I agree. I
Yeah.
think they probably do not go to tribal council. Um, and I would agree with you. I think Kishan has definitely gotten the best material on this tribe because last week I kind of talked about the you know, kind of nothing to do, but they still mention you. That's obviously we've gone away from the old
Mhm.
school winter edit, but that's an old school winter edit thing. It's still positive information, positive screen time. Um, and yeah, I liked because I think you had said last week that Gabe might be actually right. I forget who you said was doing it worse between Gabe and Rome, but I feel like in the edit, it's pretty clear that Rome has been fucking up, and I
Mhm.
think it's a very interesting thing that they give Keyshawn a confessional where he is comparing himself directly to Rome, who they are kind of hitting over the head the fact that uh, Rome is not playing well. So if Keyshawn is like, hey, Rome is this kind of player, and he's bad because of it, and I plan on playing the exact opposite way, it kind of is you're like nudged to like, hey, he's a good player, you know?
Right. Rome is definitely getting the edit of hey, look at this dummy edit.
Yeah.
like there's always like one a season where like they just get like I mean he's not playing great, but they
Mm.
get like an unfair edit of like they just get like dunked on by the edit team over and over. Like it's just like the way they frame it is just like how could you possibly be this stupid? And like
Yeah.
obviously on the island it's not like that cut and dry, but like he's definitely getting that edit of like everyone hates this guy and he's making all the wrong moves and he still doesn't understand that he's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I would agree with that. And yeah, this is who I'm definitely rooting for the most to go to tribal council because Rome is safe
Me too.
and I have no clue who would go besides that. I actually, no matter who goes to travel next week, I'll be pretty interested in it because I think the blue tribe is relatively up for grabs. The yellow tribe, yeah, I think there's a chance that Andy goes, but there are some very interesting other possibilities. Um, and then obviously the red tribe, like we talked about, is so up in the air right now. I think any of the three would be very entertaining next week.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I had to guess, I think blue's gonna go again.
I
Would be my
yeah,
just if I had to pick a tribe.
I was kind of thinking, yeah, I was kind of thinking yellow, but I don't know. Um, okay, I'll run down the rankings real quick. We had Sam at number one again. But that is we're yet to have a unanimous. He's been year one. He's been hovering around like three for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we got Sam, Kashan, Tiana, Sierra, Aisha, Caroline, Annika, Genevieve, Sue, Saul. That's the top 10 just for reference. And then 11 is Teeny, 12, Rachel, 13, Gabe. Gabe and Kyle are tied. We had another tie up there, but whatever. Um, and then Rome is 15. Andy is 16. And that means it's time for
Chung chung.
the Dun Chain. So
You
I
again.
done I done chained Andy last week, and it is mine to give again. And I will admit, I wrote down a name, and in this because I was thinking like I don't know if there's an obvious one, so I tried to do the you kind of guess the next
Talk it
person
through.
who's going home. Well, that too, but
Yeah.
guess the next person who's going home. Um, I think that I'm going to stay away from the red tribe. I think we're in agreement that I think I think if anyone's going to be invincible this pre-merge, it's going to be them. And I can't even guess who it would be because Rome is the
Right.
obvious next boot, but
And he
he
obviously can't go next.
right, and I also think he's so in the edit that it's either just like look how bright this guy is shining before he flames out, or
Mm-hmm.
like he's gonna figure it out. And if he
Mhm.
figures it out, I don't want to have him done chained. And if it is just a flame out, I'm still gonna have time because of that idol, right? So I'm not gonna do anybody from the red tribe. You just said you think blue tribe's going next. I was kind of under the assumption yellow might go next, and based on what we said, the name I originally wrote down is Annika. I kind
Mhm.
of have a bold take that I think she might go home next week. Um, because Sam's got Andy and he's got Sierra. And I think if he wants to do it, he has it there.
Mhm.
And I think it comes down to the cracks becoming more. I think the more obvious the cracks become, Annika has. We kind of forgot about it, but last week she kind of had this thing where she's like, "I don't want to lead," and then she does lead, and she's like, "Whoops, I can't help myself. Like I'm the boss, haha."
Mhm.
And I think it might get a little bit control freaky with her. Like
Mhm.
once she realizes that Sam and Sierra are closer with each other than they are with her, then it reminds me, this is a deep pull, but it's a little bit of like Natalia from David versus Goliath, of like one thing goes wrong and then it's like a small spiral gets to a bigger spiral and all of a sudden it's like you're getting voted out. And
Yeah.
I do think it's possible, but I kind of like the idea of Gabe going home next from the Blue Tribe. And so all I would have to do is be wrong about who goes to tribal council, which is can easily happen. There's no real way to know that, to know
Predict
who.
that. Yeah.
Right. So I've kind of been wrestling with Gabe, and like over the last like 10 minutes, I've been thinking about like, I don't know. I thought you made a decent argument for Annika when we were talking about the Yellow Tribe, and I've never been too high on Gabe. If I did pick someone from Blue, it would be Gabe. So I'm at a
Let me
crossroads.
pitch something to you here.
Okay.
Who? Okay, so two things. Do you think Annika or Gabe is the better player? If they were in a jam, who would you be more confident could work their way out of the jam?
I
I
do
think
think it.
probably Annika has more wiggle room.
I do think it is Annika, but Gabe, for all of his drawbacks, we did see him pretty successfully navigate this last vote. He does
He did.
have.
That's fair.
I think he does have Sue, and Sue like low key might have uh some godmother energy to her there, of like just kind of
Hmm.
moving pieces around. Like she seems like the obvious person to go home, but then everybody wants to work with her, and so
Hmm.
that has power. So
Maybe Kyle does just go. Like, I
right,
don't
but
think he's a great player.
yeah. So oh man, I'm really struggling
But
with it.
then the other thing is you could pick someone on blue, so you have someone, so your bases are covered. You have Andy and someone on blue, so you have a chance for someone to go either way
Right. Yeah. So
if you
the
want to play your odds.
but then the other way I'm bolstering my odds though is that if I do Annika, if they don't go, then like the next time they do go, I've got two people out of five, and
Right.
it's like Sam's
And then
definitely
it's
safe.
Rachel.
Right. Yeah. Fuck. Um. Yeah. If you were making this pick, Annika would go home. If I'm making the pick, Rachel will go home.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be
It's tough.
Soul.
Let me see. All right, I'm not gonna be a pussy. I'm
I
gonna do
think this is
Annika.
I think this is there you go. I think this is
Hmm.
a tough pick. Yes, it's a tough spot to be in because like
It,
anytime you don't usually you have like at least like one pick on each tribe, and when that one pick on the third tribe is someone who can't get voted out, then you're really like just guessing, especially this early on.
yeah. So yeah,
But going with
I'm
Annika.
going with Annika. Yeah, I just because you were saying like if someone's in a jam, who do you trust to work out of it more? I think the real answer is Annika, but I do think she also has some spin out spiral potential to her.
Hmm.
And also like that's looking at it in a vacuum. And if you're looking at it not in a vacuum, I think the chips are starting to get stacked against her. Like I was never anti Annika. I just think based on the way I see Sam trending right now and the revelation that
Hmm.
Sierra is really solidly with him, I I'm like, man, I like her days could be numbered and Gabe like he might just be the kind of idiot savant of like if he didn't play
Yeah.
that idol, this would be a lot easier decision.
Oh yeah. I mean, he had a good week last week. To be honest, it didn't like help him out in the rankings, but like he played well.
Yeah, it's just, from the content that we've gotten from him so far, I do think it would be irresponsible to put him too much higher than we have him right now. So
He does seem like someone who like if he's in on the plan, he's gonna make the right decision. But no way is he sniffing out a plan.
that I think is the perfect, yeah, that's him. When he's making the plan, it
Yeah.
is pretty solid. When a plan is made against
Right.
him, yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna love his odds. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
I think
I think it
he just
depends on
ends
the.
up going home like completely blindsided. Like no
Yeah,
way he even sniffs it.
I think it depends on the countess. I think I think it
I
was
don't like her.
me neither. I think it was there was probably a reason why she is like was pretty anti working with him. It kind of worked out, so like maybe she'll come around, but you don't usually see people just saying flat out no to alliances on day 4 or whatever.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, all right. Well, uh, if you don't have anything else, sir, I think
No.
that about does it for us. All right. Well, gonna have a big week regardless next week, no matter who goes to tribal council. I think it'll be interesting. Um, so yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you all next time.